Det ser ut som hon. Ja.
A small piece of Japan here in Tokyo, here in Stockholm. How nice! Well, now since I started talking, I might as well keep it up. This place is called Kungsträdgården. It's like one of the main squares in central Stockholm. And this place also has kind of a Japan connection in a way, because all these trees that you see around here, they are actually cherry blossom trees. And there's usually, when they bloom, there's like Japanese events here, like a Japanese festival. It's really beautiful, actually, to walk under these trees when they're covered with pink flowers, but obviously today the atmosphere is slightly different. A sad February morning, but hopefully I can come back here during the right season as well. Oh, that's a pretty massive pile of snow. I wonder what happened here. Of course, ice skating. Also probably some copyright related issues will come up now. Let's see if YouTube manages to filter out those songs. Let's see. Now we are approaching the royal castle, which you can see, or maybe you can't, but you will soon be able to see it on the other side of the canal here. I always felt that it's a shame that the royal castle in the middle of Stockholm is such an ugly building. It's there are lots of beautiful castles in Sweden, but this is probably one of the least beautiful ones. But it's at the same time it's the most prominent one. It's a bit of a missed opportunity there, Sweden. Anyway, passing the castle, then we will enter the old town of Stockholm, which is about as central as you can get these days in this city, I guess. Quite an attractive place to live, even though most of the houses over there are several hundred years old. But due to the location and the historical atmosphere, it's a very, very attractive place to live. Over there is Grand Hotel. I don't know, never stayed there, but I guess it's a grand experience. Also, the boats here, those connects the city center to some of the islands out in the archipelago, where actually I think some people live there permanently and use these boats for their daily commute, but don't quote me on that. Lots of birds here. Interesting mix. It's a bit windy. Unfortunately, I don't have a wind muff for this camera, so I hope it's not too distracting. basically over here, or that building over there, that's the parliament. So yeah, we're really in the heart of Stockholm. You can also see the city hall. That's the tower that you can see next to the right of the parliament. So we're really in the center of Stockholm right now, close to where all the important decisions are being made. I think I will walk a little bit further down next to the water here rather than heading straight into the old town. I think the views around here are quite nice. So many swans everywhere. There's a ton of museums that you can see from here. That's the National Museum over there. And then further down there you see the, what's it called in English? The National History Museum, maybe. And that's the East Asian Museum in that yellow building. Lots of museums around here. I think on this island there's a few other museums as well. Over there you can see it's called Kaknästornet, and it's like the Tokyo Sky Tree or Tokyo Tower of Stockholm. I think there's still a restaurant at the top, but I'm not sure. I haven't been there actually, but at least they used to have a restaurant up at the top. Yeah, Stockholm is a city built on a bunch of islands, so obviously water transport has always been very important. So you can see there's so many boats. These are just for sightseeing. Over there you can see a big ferry which most likely goes between Stockholm and either maybe Estonia or Finland. And I don't know which one that is exactly over there, but maybe one that goes to Finland is my guess. And those cruises are like super cheap. Basically you can get the room for free, and they just make money of the stuff that you buy on the like during the cruise. It's like a big party boat. Let's see if we can. Let's cross here maybe and enter the old town so you get to see a little bit of that as well. Or it's too late. Over there, all those buildings that you see, those are on the southernmost island of central Stockholm, called Södermalm. It's like one of the, or at least 10-15 years ago, that used to be a pretty hip and trendy part of town to live. I'm not really sure where the cool kids hang out these days, but yeah. At least that used to be the place. So let's try heading in here into the old town. As you can see, these buildings are indeed quite old. The streets are very narrow. Hopefully we can see when some of them were built as well. It's quite common in Sweden that you put the year that the building was completed on the facade, but maybe that doesn't. I don't see it anywhere around here right now. Let's see. Here we go. This is one of the most touristy parts, or maybe the most touristy part of Stockholm. But it's quite early on a Sunday, so I don't expect it to be terribly crowded right now, but we shall see once we get to the main street. But yeah, all those houses around here, it's actually apartments still, which is quite fascinating. Let's head up this street just because the light is so nice. There's also a ton of restaurants and bars and cafes on these streets. I think most of them are kind of overpriced and a bit of a tourist trap, but I'm sure if you know the area well, there might be some places that are actually worth visiting. Oh, and that's right, they're actually doing some pretty major construction work here. This area that we're approaching now is called Slussen, which basically means the sluice, and it used to be a very, very central kind of public transportation hub with buses and trains and whatnot connecting here, but it was built very long time ago, and it's been in pretty bad shape. So a couple of years ago they started tearing it down, and I think that process is gonna take a pretty long time. I think they're still, I don't know if they're even done tearing it down, and then it's gonna be like reconstructed and built up again. So basically this place has been a mess for as long as I can remember, because even before they started this construction, it was just very, very confusing and very, very messy. Hopefully they can figure out a better way of sorting out all the transportation that flows through this area. For those of you interested, the temperature right now is -2 degrees, which is probably the coldest day I've experienced since I came to Sweden 2 weeks ago. You can see an airplane that's probably heading down for landing at Bromma airport, which is one of 2 airports that serves the Stockholm region. Bromma airport is quite small, mostly used I think for domestic and some international lines, but the vast majority of international flights arrive at an airport called Arlanda, which is a bit further away from the city. Let's see if we can get a peek through this fence. I think in this building with all the windows, that's where EA and DICE, one of the biggest game companies in Sweden, used to have their main office, but I don't see their logo anymore, so maybe they moved. And another interesting point of interest. It's not super obvious, but one of the brick buildings here next to the water few hundred meters away is the Photographic Museum, which opened, I guess it's like maybe 15 years ago now. But it's a pretty nice museum if you're into photography. They have lots of exhibitions with very famous photographers from all over the world. They also have a nice little restaurant with a good view of the sea or the water. Yes, now we are approaching Slussen station, the subway stop in this part of town. Like I said, that used to be... we're in Sweden, so jaywalking is not a big of a deal here as it is in Japan. Yeah, here's the subway station, which used to be a pretty important spot. I think it still is. I think this entrance is new. I don't remember seeing it before. It used to be only this one. Now we are bumping into a big group of runners. It seems like running in a group is a big deal or a popular thing to do in Sweden. Or maybe they're just rushing to catch the train. No, I don't think so. I think there's some sort of running club. But yeah, now we're approaching a street called Götgatan, which is one of the main streets here in southern Stockholm. It's a kind of, it has this uphill part here and then it's downhill once we reach the peak. But yeah, in the streets around here there's lots of nice residential neighborhoods, very popular. I think if you want like a rental apartment around here, you would have to wait for about 30 years in a queue. The Swedish rental system is very, very broken, and demand is much higher than supply, so waiting times for attractive rental apartments is quite crazy. And if you want to buy something around here, you're probably looking at prices that would not be that much different from New York or Tokyo, or maybe a little bit lower, but probably in a kind of similar ballpark. Here's another subway entrance. 7-Eleven is not super common in Sweden. There's a few in the major cities like Stockholm, Malmö and Gothenburg, but I think that's it. I don't think any smaller cities has 7-Eleven. Bread and Salt. Interesting name. Now we are approaching the next stop on the subway, which is Medborgarplatsen. You can see the stop just over here. This is also a kind of key area in this part of Stockholm. Lots of activity going on around this square, and in the blocks behind here there's tons and tons of residential buildings, including this tower, which we don't really have a lot of those buildings in that style in Sweden, but yeah, there's one of them. And here's a nice little, or not really nice, but it's a little park anyway. It can be quite nice in the summer. Then people sometimes meet here for like picnic or beer. But yeah, maybe not the most uplifting place right now with this weather. But yeah, I think that's where I will leave you today. I hope you enjoyed this little tour of central Stockholm, and I look forward to seeing you all on the channel soon again. Okay, bye bye, hej då, matane und auf Wiedersehen.